Yes, we want to wrap up our news review this morning right here on Power Breakfast on Citizen TV with Governors Josephat Nanok and William Kabogo from Turkana and Kiambu counties, respectively. Also, in my panel, we have senior political analyst Barack Muluka. And you want to contest that?
Well, thanks for the baptism. That's okay.
You do deserve the accolade, but Muluka. Anyway, on page 5 of the Standard, there's this President Kenyatta still ahead of Raila, new opinion poll reveals. Now, this opinion poll was conducted in January by Ipsos. Now, it gives Uhuru Kenyatta a 47% approval, or rather support, if elections were called during that time of that the poll was conducted, which is not very far from now. It's about 2-3 weeks back. Yes, 47% against 30% for Raila Odinga. Remember previously, and if we could go by the numbers, the last elections, of course, the President Uhuru Kenyatta managed 50+1. Actually, 51%. No, this one is if elections were called today.
Yes.
In terms of approval, the President has about 66% against Raila Odinga's 51%.
Right.
The Deputy President has 52%. But in terms of if elections were to be called today, how many would vote for Uhuru Kenyatta? 47%. For Raila Odinga, 30%. Now, the difference is that when Uhuru Kenyatta at the last elections got 51%. So this is a 4% drop. Yes. When Raila Odinga, the last poll, he had 28%. So this one is 2% up. Yes. Hence the difference. Does this poll give you optimism? Do you disagree with it? Because politicians are known to dispute these polls every time. As long as it does not favor your numbers, you disapprove. You dismiss it.
I think the first thing, Nanok.
Yeah, polls are polls, and I think you've seen of recent that certain polls even conducted in advanced democracies like the US have always turned around to be not true. Essentially, that may be the situation in January. But I think the critical point you've got to realize is that President Uhuru loses support, Raila increases support. But this was even before the opposition came together as a coalition called NASA.
Yes.
And even before NASA has decided its flag bearer.
Yes.
And even before NASA has spelled out to Kenyans, this is the promises they will want to go into election with. And I think, to me, the most critical time to do a polling will be towards the end of March, around April, when both coalitions and other smaller parties will have decided their flag bearers.
Yes.
Because that's now, and then the main coalitions have also put their manifestos for the next term. And essentially, as I said before, it is going to be based on promises made in 2013 and how each of the parties have delivered on those promises effectively. And it also goes to be based on the issues that are right now at the national level. One of the critical issues that is going to be of challenge will be the issues of corruption. Indeed, it's going to play. The issues of regional issues on land, on natural resources like oil, as I said before, in Turkana, but equally so on other issues people feel are more closer to them. And I think that is going to be the critical challenge.
Yes.
And that will determine how people will vote.
Yes. And you mentioned a few facts that when this poll was conducted, NASA had not even formed properly. It was still CORD and ANC, and they were still talking. So a lot has changed since then. NASA is still yet to name its flag bearer. So that could change as well. Yes. So moving closer to the elections, of course, all these factors will come into play. Do you still feel confident, seeing that your President Kenyatta, your party leader,
you want me to comment? You want me to comment on my president dropping? I don't believe my president is dropping. I feel limited in my or constrained to speak to that poll because there are certain things we don't know about that poll. What was the outreach? How many people were they sampled? All these things are things that
the
you need to
sample they've
consider.
actually given is about 2,300, 2,400.
You see, how was it done? What were the issues raised?
The methodology.
Yes.
And these are the same issues that
because
politicians
they are
always
the same
raise.
guys who bring in polls and say this, the next thing you see this. Look at America, what happened with polls just before the elections. And they are so advanced, I mean, more advanced than we are. I want to believe that Kenya will have a peaceful election. That's number one in my mind. Number two, that we should be able to take government again with over 50+1. That's my belief. Because we have done what it is that we say to Kenyans will do. Some of the things we have not been able to do, and I mean, these are challenges that happen anywhere in the world. In terms of popularity of Jubilee and working across the board in Kenya, that is no doubt even Nanok will tell you that even in opposition stronghold areas, development has happened. I mean, if you look at, for example, and I'm not saying this is the only one, connectivity to electricity. It is not in Jubilee strongholds, it's in the whole republic. Things like the standard gauge rail, Mombasa to Nairobi, it has nothing to do with the stronghold. It is now Mombasa, Nairobi to Malaba. Opening up the country in terms of road network, the work that has been done in the last 4 years related to what has happened since independence, Jubilee is working. Yes. But I'm saying, if we were to do polls, I do agree with Nanok that polls done in April may be different than polls that were done in January. Yes. Of course, because of changes and shifts within parties.
Of course, but Muluka, given what happened in the U.S., of course, politicians will keep dismissing these polls, saying after all they were done in the U.S. and they did not turn out true.
Polls ought to be taken very, very seriously, especially when they are scientifically done and the methodology is given, that we know not just about the numbers that were sampled, but we know about the sample frame, and that we even know about the questions that were asked and how those questions were structured, because certain questions can be structured to anticipate a certain kind of answer and therefore certain kind of outcome and result. I have had very serious problems, and I hope that Thomas Wolf is watching, because I have analyzed some of his previous opinion polls where the whole data was released to me, which he no longer does for reasons that are well known to him, that you can see some very major inconsistencies in methodology. You can see certain major inconsistencies in the sample frame, and therefore even the outcomes do not have internal rigor and unity. And to that extent, I have advised myself to refrain from taking seriously any opinion polls that are coming from Ipsos Synovate. Moreover,
it's only Ipsos now.
Moreover, Ipsos, you see, I don't even know that they have now become just Ipsos. But beyond that, actually, when they were becoming Ipsos, let me be honest, they were bought by a leading political family in the country.
Sure.
And our people say that when you own the soothsayer, that soothsayer can no longer be trusted.
Then what do you say?
You know, he has put some very serious comments there.
A political family, and not just a political family, but a very senior one, owns huge shares in Ipsos. And Ipsos is a lapdog in the hands of the political family.
Are you
How
saying
do I expect them?
This research was conducted by a different firm, you would believe?
They should declare their interests. You know, in our research,
you know, Kenya has very many.
What do you say to the fact? Also have got to make declarations.
What do you say to the fact that the numbers?
Kenya has very many political families.
One of the questions that Thomas Wolf is obsessed with, almost pathologically obsessed with, is the question of whether Raila Odinga should continue being in politics or whether he should retire. Of what wider relevance is that kind of question? We have got people who are older than Raila Odinga,
but
in
democracy. To be fair, that question was asked on all the candidates who are whose supporters that question was posed.
It's targeting a specific individual.
Yes.
It's trying to create a certain narrative that this is a person who should no longer be. Okay?
Okay, but Ananok, what do you say about this?
Yeah, I think Thomas Fox is earning his daily bread.
Yes.
And he must produce results all the time. But I think to me critical is about pledges in election. Has the current ruling coalition delivered on the promises it made in 2013? I can tell you 80% they haven't done. The things they're delivering on were not contained on those manifestos, and they were essentially carryovers of the NAC coalition, which I'm happy to have served as an assistant minister. Because if you take, for example, Turkana, the pledges they made in Turkana, not a single one has been achieved. The resettlement of the post-election 2017 IDPs, 11,000 of them. The houses are halfway done. The toilets, the sanitation facilities has never been done. The money has not been budgeted for. It is a forgotten case.
I mean,
so are the roads. In fact, what is happening now, there are pledges being made towards an election, meaning they were not meant to be implemented. They are just there to entice the voters to vote. And I think if the basis of electing a government is going to be on the basis on delivering on election pledges, then NASA has the opportunity now to take government. And I believe the Kenyan voters are going to go with NASA and give trust and give them the opportunity to deliver.
And I think it's only fair. I want to just speak to just one point that he has raised about IDPs. It's only fair to give a percentage of the settlements that have been done by the Jubilee government. And I would say 78% of IDPs that were in place in 2013 have been settled. They've been
5 camps in Turkana, 11,000.
So maybe Turkana, and I don't want to
and
speak
nobody's
about what is happening in Turkana, but I would say generally 78% of those people have been settled. We also have a few here in Kenyatta, in Kiambu, that were just settled recently. So if it is a score on settlement of refugee and of IDPs, then 78 out of 100.
What do you say to what he said about Jubilee running amok, really appearing to try to do everything for the sake of the elections?
I mean,
not really
if I was in NASA, I would make that statement. If I'm in Jubilee, I would not make that statement. I would be saying we're not running amok. And I'm in Jubilee, so we're not running amok.
We take note that he's saying he's in Jubilee.
Yes.
I am in Jubilee. And so he's saying that not because it is factual, but because
remember,
in Jubilee.
Sometimes we want to think as intellectuals and imagine that we don't belong somewhere. I belong to my father.
And you will always support your father.
I am saying,
even when he goes
I belong. That's not the issue. This is an issue of where are you going with the elections. I am going with Jubilee for elections. Governor Nanok is respectively going to elections with NASA. We have our own ideologies in our parties. But the success of how we get this is how much do we achieve in what we promise Kenyans to do. And I'm saying, as on a score scale, on a scorecard, we are above 70% off.
The governor for Kiambu, the governor for Kiambu must be taken very seriously when he says that if I were in NASA, I would say this, and I'm in Jubilee, so I say this. He's telling us that if there's a night runner in the village who is troubling people, and you are sent out to find out who the night runner is, if you find out that that night runner is your father, you don't come out to say that I found out who the night runner is, that it's my father who has been causing trouble in the village, because he has a family, he's coming from somewhere, and he must protect that family at all times, at all costs.
Let's just go back. Let's just go back.
About 10,000 kilometers.
Let's just go back 2 minutes ago when we talked about some wolf guy saying that his company was bought by a family. you know, a powerful family.
A powerful one.
I imagine that powerful family is Raila Odinga's family, political family.
Okay.
I imagine.
That is what you imagine.
That I imagine. So would I be right in that imagination? Do I have that right to imagine?
Yes.
The same way he has the right of, you know, the issues that we are raising here is about my party. Do I believe in my party's ideologies? Do I believe in it? Yes, I do. And if I said very well, if I was in NASA, I would be there because I believe in that party. So I would not. I think
fulfillment of pleasures.
I think what is important that Governor Turkana is saying. I mean, he's saying that in Turkana certain people were not settled. I have not said no. I have said that is possibly so, and it's unfortunate. But to a large extent, 78% of those that were displaced have been settled.
Okay, gentlemen, allow me to do this. We need to give our final submissions because our time is up. We'll start with you. I give you a minute.
What I've seen Sinovedo, they are releasing peaceful info. Can they publish all the info they have collected from the opinion poll data so that we can see the other information they are withdrawing? But that was my point initially. We're praying for this country to go into a peaceful and credible election. And I think that's what we call all the political players, including the referee. Those who are not referee, and in government, particularly the security sector, the Nkaiseris and all the others, let them assure there is peace. Let them not interfere with a peaceful election. The other thing is, I call upon all the players. There is a problem in IBC going into election. I do not think IBC is prepared. We must bite this bullet. And we must be able to sit down and decide how do we help IBC to be prepared. The way it is now, commissioners have come into office, they have found the servers are not working, the register is a problem, and the timelines also are coming very close. And I think we need to sort this matter and say Kenya is for all of us. We want to live in a peaceful Kenya. We must be able to approach this problem without bias and be able to make sure that IBC as a referee for election is well prepared for the election. And I also call upon everyone, let us not use institutions of government to intimidate and threaten people. Because I am seeing this every time we are approaching politics. You've got certain people who say they're powerful, using ESCC, using the police to try and frustrate opposition. So let us give Kenyans the opportunity to elect the leaders they love, because after 8th of August, we should have leaders Kenyans have given the mandate to represent them or govern them for the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you. We'll allow Muluka to wrap up the conversation.
Yes, mine is just short and very, very short indeed. That we need as a country to have a free and fair general election and a peaceful one too. And for that to happen, certain things need to be in place, as opposed to probably just saying IEBC is not ready. What are the things as Kenyans that we need to see in place, and what timelines for us to be able to say that yes, they can run a credible election? And if not, what are the options that are available, including even postponing if they are not ready, including. I would not want.
Is that something you would consider postponing the election?
I mean, surely you would not ask him that question. His answer would be yes. If they are not ready, what does he expect them to do?
Let the key stakeholders sit.
You know what I'm saying?
Discuss about this matter and come.
We're on the same side of that statement. Now, let's find out what is it that takes to have a credible election. Do we have it? As opposed to just throwing letters all over.
From your side, do you think we have all it takes?
I think we should. If we don't have interference, we should just make sure that we know the parameters that need to be in place. For example, do we have a clean register? That is very important. Does the system in IBC do they have the capacity to run a free and fair election?
Do you believe they do?
They should have, yes. They should have. They should have. And if they don't, they have the capacity to tell us, you know, gentlemen, we cannot run an election. So we will not force them. Kenyans will listen to them. But their silence and us bombarding them with issues, are we making it even better? When will Kenyans have dialogue on a table and say, these are the things that we are looking at? And dialogue cannot exist in a vacuum. No, it has to be give and take. Let's talk to each other. This country is greater than many of us. And we will not be there when Kenya will be there 50 years from now. I'm sure, my friend.
I intend to be there.
But surely, as we wrap this up, the message to Kenyans, let's go easy on each other. We need this country. We need a good Kenya. And it is going well. It is well. It will be well. But if we start just thinking about darkness, then dream darkness and you will find darkness.
Yes, darkness at noon. Now, I want to say this from a public communications perspective. We say that perception is everything. The truth may be sitting in one corner, and there is a perception that is abroad, and it's the perception that is going to carry the day. The IEBC has got the responsibility to ensure that the elections are not just free and fair, but they are seen to be free and fair. And that must start with the preparatory process, that they must learn to come out and put information into the public domain without waiting for people to seem like they are pleading with them, that they are arm twisting them, that they make themselves to start looking as if they were, to use the same analogy, a lapdog in the hands of the Jubilee government. And it's also in the interest of this country that Jubilee leaders advise themselves to refrain from seeming to be the spokespersons for the IEBC, because the more they seem to speak for the IEBC, the more they appear to be working with them. The IEBC needs to come out very clear on the questions that have been asked about the BVR, about the register, about registration of prisoners as voters, about the access of the opposition to their prisons, for them to also confirm that what is happening there is right. Remember that this election can be won by just one vote. To come clear and clean on what is happening in registration of voters in the diaspora, and assure the nation that everything is just free and fair.
Wow, thank you so much, Barack Muluka, senior political analyst. Governor William Kabogo from Kiambu County, and Governor Josephat Nanok from Turkana County, helping us look at the headlines this morning. Yes, indeed, it is 167 days to the August 8th election. Will it happen? Will the IEBC need to change the date because of the timelines that these gentlemen are saying need to be addressed? There's so many questions that need to be answered. We are only looking at the headlines this morning. Anyway, Power Breakfast still continues. Remember, that's a hashtag to use. Joey Mudengi will be discussing issues of stress in a short while, as well as Willis Waburu talking about fitness. For me, my name is Fred Indemuli. Good morning.